Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today on Facebook Live. My name is Lisa Miller. I'm the Communications Director here at the American Red Cross of Alaska. And I'm joined today by one of our newer staff. This is Maria Caruso.
Hello.
Will you introduce yourself and give us your title?
Yeah, so I'm the new Disaster Workforce Specialist for the Alaska region.
And Maria, after only being here for how many weeks?
I think about 5 weeks.
Oh, 5 weeks?
5 or 6.
You've been here 5 weeks total?
Before I deployed.
Okay, so after being here for less than 2 months, you were deployed, which in Red Cross terms, that means you are relocated to another chapter to assist in a disaster. So we wanted to just kind of take some time to reflect about your deployment and what you learned and what you're bringing back to Alaska.
Great.
So tell us a little bit about where you went.
So I went to Fresno for just under 2 weeks. I was there to assist on the Detwiler Fire, which was a pretty big fire. It was 82,000 acres in total,
Okay.
And there were about 67 homes that were destroyed, which is relatively small for a fire that size, but still
a lot.
affects a significant number of people.
Wow. Okay, so you were there. This is the Detwiler Fire is in addition to, there were other fires taking place as well. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
So my understanding is that every summer in California is wildfire summer.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the people I was working with were telling me that they had been kind of in deployment mode almost since the beginning of June,
Right.
which I think is pretty typical for them.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the people that I was working with had just come up from Santa Barbara within they'd had maybe 3 days off in between deployments.
Okay. So those were local staff, meaning they're within California.
Right, yes.
Okay.
So I think all the people that had been on the Santa Barbara fire that came up to the Detwiler fire were for the most part local staff that was
Okay.
within their region.
So they are, to give some context, they're kind of, I don't want to say running on E, but they've been in this mode for quite some time. So at that point, as well as the fire reaching a certain size, the Red Cross will pull in additional resources from other what we call regions. So that's why you were deployed there, right?
Right, yeah. So Red Cross really likes to make sure that people aren't completely burnt out when they're doing something like this. So
Right.
they try to bring in people from other areas, other parts of the country to relieve the people that have been working on these fires for quite some time.
So, and when you deployed, you agreed to go for a rough amount of time, and if not, it's not a few days. So how long did you agree to go for?
Right, so for deployments, there's a minimum commitment of 14 days, unless you're doing health services, and then it's a little bit less, it's 10 days to try and accommodate nurses' work schedules.
Gotcha.
But for the most part, they don't want to send people who can't be there for 14 days because they're trying to minimize the amount of resources they have to
Right.
put into people. Doesn't mean you'll necessarily be there for 14 days. If something winds up more quickly than that, then you might get sent home before. But generally, yeah, they want you to be there for the whole time.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about, once you're there, what was your actual role and what did you see?
So I was located at headquarters. I was essentially doing HR for all of the Red Cross staff and volunteers that were deployed to work on this fire. That means making sure that everyone has lodging, they know where they're staying, tracking people's work assignments, where they're sleeping in case there's any kind of emergency and we need to get in touch with them. Also helping people with mission cards, which is the card they're given to pay for food when they go on deployment, and generally kind of answering any questions people had or any issues that came up.
So you're really the first face that anyone at the Red Cross, volunteer, employee, sees when they arrive.
Right, yeah. Everyone is supposed to check in with staff services, which is what I was doing.
And then you were there in training mode, you said?
Yeah, so I went as a staff in training because the role that I was doing there is the same role that I'll have in Alaska if anything comes up here. So Kelly really wanted me to learn what that would look like, so I'm comfortable if something comes up here.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's really neat. So, so what exactly was your role? Just checking everyone in and being at?
Yeah, checking people in, making sure everything's okay, checking on them, like if there are any staff contacts for health issues. That's also a number that I capture in one of the reports that I run. The number of local volunteers that we're using, kind of generally running reports for people, other staff members. Because of the position I have, I'm the one that has access to reports, so just kind of assisting other staff with whatever they need.
And this is a really real situation that could happen in Alaska. This, it makes you kind of thankful that we have had this cool, wet summer, because the wildfires have been pretty minimal in Alaska.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's definitely a possibility for something here. So it sounds like some good lessons learned.
Yeah, it was really great to be there and to see what my job looks like in an emergency situation, and feel competent that I'll be able to do that successfully here if needed.
Will you tell us a little bit more, just beyond your role at the Red Cross? Like, just tell us what it was like being that close to such a, well, I guess in their terms it wasn't a huge fire, but it's pretty significant wildfire. What was that like? Can you describe it for us a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of crazy, because I know those fires happen all the time, and they happen, a lot on the West Coast, but I've never really seen one or been close to one. And because I was in Fresno, which was a little removed from where the actual fire was, I didn't see a lot. But it was definitely, you could see the fire on the horizon, you could see the hazy skies, and a lot of the pictures and the footage that the other Red Cross staff and volunteers were taking when they were out in the field was just pretty incredible. It was a lot of damage.
Yeah, we have in the Facebook note that we put up with your updates, thank you for sending those, I put a link to the Flickr album that the Red Cross put together from this response. Yeah. So if you want to see just some images of what that response looked like, they're really, you can see the inside of the shelter, the actual fire itself, the response volunteers. So
yeah, it's
pretty intense. And even if you just search for the hashtag Detwiler Fire, you see some just chilling pictures.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add about what you brought back or your overall experience?
Yeah, I mean, just one thing that was really great for me to see, one of the things I definitely took from my experience there, was just to see how important volunteers really are to any big emergency that the Red Cross has. They don't have the capacity staff-wise to respond to something like that. So it's really important to have volunteers that are well trained and know what they're doing and are willing to go out and respond to something like that. So it's pretty incredible to see the way people come together and just fill into their spots and really know what they're doing, and it just sort of works. It's always a little chaotic, I think, but it comes together.
Yep, one of the stats that we always throw out there is Red Cross is 90% ran by volunteers, and it's just case in point that the community really comes together in these type of situations. And
yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that insight with us. It's really nice to hear about a first-hand experience on a Red Cross deployment. So thanks for joining us today. And if anyone has any other questions, feel free to leave those in the comments, and we will get back to you.
Thanks.
Thank you.